Welcome to Doctor on Call with your host, DocGriffon. The doctor will be with you momentarily. Our guest this evening is controversial YouTube personality, Hardkore. Be aware there are several emergency exits on this talk show. Take a few moments to locate your nearest exit. Well, in the unlikely event of a water landing, please be aware this interview may be used as a flotation device. DocGriffon, paging DocGriffon, you're needed in OR, stat!
And thank you very much, Nurse Donna. And tonight, we did have a scheduled guest. That guest was Joe Flynn, old traditional horror host. He's been doing it for over 30 years. But apparently, since he lives in California, he has to deal with what they call rolling blackouts. So he literally has no power. But not to fear, because we do have another great guest. And it's somebody that I enjoy chatting with.
I exist. I'm a person.
You do. And so let us go ahead and we will welcome to the doctor's office, Hardkore. How are you this evening?
I'm very good. How are you? This is kind of sudden. I was wondering when I was going to get my doctor on call. I'm happy to be a replacement guest. And, you know, anytime you need me to replace somebody, I'm happy to be here for you, buddy.
I appreciate that. And, of course, I technically have a list of backup people that I want to talk to. And yeah, you're definitely on that list. Yeah. I want to start off. Of course, I always start off before everything began with the YouTubes. So when you were growing up, were you in a rural or suburban or urban environment?
I would say it was more suburban adjacent. What was weird about like where I lived when I was growing up, like me and my mom moved to Georgia really briefly when I was like 3, and then we moved back to Texas and lived with my grandma. And then she got married to the person who she's still married to, my stepdad, and he had a 2-story log cabin on stilts, and we basically lived in the woods. But it was basically only like 10 minutes away from, like a smaller town where there was like a Walmart and stuff like that. And 30 minutes from Dallas. So it wasn't too far away to where we didn't have like things, but it was close enough or far enough away to where, you know, I lived in the woods and got to see trees all the time, and I had a creek by my house. It was kind of nice.
So would you say that your schooling followed more country?
No, not really. Pretty much, I want to say as soon as I got back from Georgia, my grandmother and my mom put me in this private school, and then I got public schooled from like 2nd to 4th grade. And then I got put back into private school from 5th to high school, and then I was in high school and public school. So I went back and forth.
No, I've never done private school. What's the difference between the two?
Well, the first one, there was really not really any difference. It was pretty normal. I remember when I was like, I want to say 1st grade, I had a shelf fall on me. Like I was over there and I was trying to I got told to pull some books off the shelf, and I went over there and pulled the books off the shelf, and the whole thing was rickety and it was full of books, and the whole thing fell on me. And I remember just being covered in all these books and stuff and being like, am I dead? And then they start pulling the books off of me, and it's like, oh, angels. So there's that. And then like the second one I went to was kind of shitty, and it wasn't shitty like it was a bad school, but it was kind of shitty Because honestly, I was ahead of people whenever I got to high school, but it was shitty in the fact that it was really small, and I wasn't rich like the other kids, so I had a lot of problems with people talking shit to me, and it was before I realized you could just punch those people in the face.
Now,
You know?
now, would you say that you're a violent kid?
No, I definitely wasn't. I was the opposite of a violent kid because it was really small. So a lot of the situations where I was maybe like 3 or 4 foot and maybe a foot smaller than everybody else at any given point in my life. And so until I got to high school, I always had the issue of just being so small that it wasn't ever an issue whether or not somebody could beat me up. And then whenever I hit high school, I jumped up about 1.5 feet. So then all of a sudden I was bigger than some of the people who were talking shit to me in like middle school or younger than that.
Well,
So you'd be surprised how much difference your life is whenever you're taller than them versus being like 6 inches shorter than them.
now, how tall are we talking?
Oh, I'm not that tall. I'm 5'8", but compared to being like 4 foot, that's completely different.
So basically, you hit the growth spurt before everybody else.
No, I hit it. I hit it at the same time as everybody else, but it coincided with me going to high school. So I went from being a small person to in middle school to being a medium sized person in high school and being brand new. So I could basically just start over.
Huh.
Yeah.
Not how. Because I'll be honest with you, everything that I did carried from elementary, and I know there was a combination of elementary schools that went into the junior high school, and then of course there's a combination of junior highs that go into high school. And,
Right.
And I never really felt that transformation, but you're saying like around middle school or junior high school that was the case. You started finding yourself.
Well, no, what it was is that ninth grade. So eighth grade, no, 5th grade through 8th grade, I was at this place called Cornerstone, and it doesn't have the same name anymore. It's a Christian school. So basically, you had in my 5th grade class, we probably had 40 people. By my 8th grade class, we probably had like something like 26. And these are all like the same people.
Okay.
And so I was, like I said, I was small and I was fat and I was dorky. And the main reason I was dorky was because I didn't have any exposure to anybody else. So I lived in the woods and I lived at the end of the road, and there was maybe one, if not two kids in a mile radius. So I wasn't sitting here able to go hang out with friends or anything like that. So I would watch TV, read books. I was really smart. So I wanted to talk about like politics and shit like that, which alienated me from everyone else. Because, 5th graders don't want to talk about Bill Clinton.
So you fell to the intellectual. Did you have any sporting side to you, or it was just?
I played sports, but it was like a force type thing. I wasn't into it. I didn't get into sports until I got into karate.
Okay, now, what? Now your discipline was karate.
It's taekwondo.
Okay, taekwondo.
Yeah.
What did it teach you?
Discipline mostly, and respect. Like, I had this funny, like, happenstance thing happen to where I had this friend from whenever I was in the private school I was in, who she was just my buddy, and I was in karate with her, so I would tease her. I would sit there and I'd be like, "I'm gonna beat you up," and we would spar and stuff like that. I'm about to beat you up. This is about to be a massacre. You're gonna get bopped in the head a bunch of times, and you're about to fall down. And so, like, the girls in the, I hate to call it dojo because it sounds dorky, but that's what it was. The school, the girls in the school took exception to that. They thought I was a masochist because I would just tell her I'm about to punch you in the face. And this one time, the secondary black belt decided she was going to beat my ass, and she did. She kicked me left, right, and sideways, and it was even like a movie. Like she did a back heel turn kick to my head, and I remember spinning, just being like woo, and it being slow motion, like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, no.
You see it coming, but there's nothing you can do about it.
But yeah, I remember all that shit. That was when I was a gold belt. I remember my white belt, my gold belt days. I had aptitude for fighting, but the thing is like I said, I was small and I was kind of fat. And I remember I got in a situation to where I had this dude who was my next door neighbor for basically my entire life, and he would like instigate fights for me. And I wasn't the type of person who wanted to fight anybody, but he would always be like the type of person who'd go over to this dude. You can tell you're in East Texas when people start shooting randomly.
Or in my ghetto.
Yeah, at least I know nobody's being murdered right now. Hopefully. And he would sit there and he would instigate these fights where he would go to the person, he'd be like, all right, well, Carlos is talking shit about you. And then he would go over to me and be like, oh, well, this dude's over here, he's talking shit about you. And I would be like, what, you talking shit? And then like, whatever, you know? So
thank you for being a friend.
Yeah, thank you for being a friend. So I got in this situation to where there was this dude, we would call him Little Dude, and he was this, like, he was smaller than me, maybe like 6 or 7 inches smaller than me. He was just this little asshole. Okay. And I got put in this situation where I was going to fight him, and I didn't want to fight him. And I even told him beforehand, like, are you sure you want to do this? Because I'm about to beat you up, you know? And he's like, yeah. And the problem is like, this kid has been fighting his entire life. Everybody, where he's from South Dallas, Oak Cliff area, and everybody and their dog beat on him his entire life. So he knew what he was doing. Me, on the other hand, I was this fat kid who had been in karate sparring, and I didn't know shit about fighting. And so he came up and he just beat the fuck out of me. Like, he came up and just and I did not know what the fuck to do about this kid. You know, because I'd never been in this situation where somebody just comes up and starts punching you in the face. And so it really just taken me back. And luckily I wasn't in a situation to where we were like mad at each other. It was this like fake y'all fight type situation. So I kind of like backed out of it. I was like, I don't want to fuck up my shirt or whatever. But it was mostly, I just did not have no answer for that kind of shit. And it really just like changed my perspective on what I was doing in Taekwondo. Because from that point on, I was like, why did that just happen to me? Why am I sitting here in this school learning this thing and not in a situation where I just got beat up pretty bad, you know? And it really just made it to where I took it a lot more seriously. So from that point on, everything I did was not about being silly and going through the motions, but actually trying to learn how to defend myself.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, if you take a look back, even 70s, 80s, 90s, the fight dynamic has changed because everybody's going all world star hip hop on people. I mean, beating them down and unconscious.
Yeah, no, that's some scary shit. One of the scariest videos I've ever seen was these 2 black girls, and one came up to the door and she pushed the button, and the other girl comes out and she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And they're just talking. They're just talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking next thing you know, this bitch pulls the other girl out the fucking deal, drags her to the ground, and starts stomping on her fucking face. Like full on 2 feet jumping on her head. And I'm sitting here just like, what the fuck, man?
Well, I tell you what, in my bouncing days, the worst fights that I ever saw were females, because
I mean,
they'll go all at it.
when I was in jail the second time, though, the time I was in there the longest,
Yeah.
fucking, you would sit there every other day. It would be some situation where all the fucking guards had to run down the girls' end because they were fighting the fucking again.
Yeah.
Yeah, dudes were sitting there the entire time I was in there. There was one, maybe two fights while I was there that actually happened. There was a lot of shit talking, but there was only 2 fights that happened in my area. Whereas the girls, it was every day, every fucking day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you're in lockup, fights are incredibly stupid just because of the fact you get caught, you get more time.
Dude, the last time I was in there, I got attacked right before I got out. I had to heal for like 2 weeks because this dude attacked me.
Any particular reason, or?
It's a really long story. The thing is the fucking person was probably one of the worst people I ever met in my entire life. And there was this like tension, like, because I'm small and this dude's a bully. I mean, even today I'm not that big. I've gotten smaller since in my older age. But I've never been a big dude. And so that always, if you're naturally a bully, I'm always the dude you want to fucking come and fuck with. I guess I have that look. And the thing is like, I'm not that dude. And so the problem is I got into a situation where I could not fight back. If I fought back, I was not leaving jail.
Yeah.
And he waited till the very day I was leaving, right before I left, and to fucking sit there and try to drag me out of my fucking bunk. And then I had long hair at the time because I couldn't cut my hair. And he fucking got behind me and grabbed me by the back of the hair and fucking started punching me in the face from behind.
Damn.
Yeah. And then fucking, the whole thing was fucking bullshit. And there really wasn't anything I could do about it, because if I fucking fought back or if I did anything, then it's mutual. And then he could press charges on me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I'm stuck. I'm fucking stuck,
Well,
so,
and one thing that I want to go back to, because I have several friends who do martial arts or MMA, and a lot of them are smaller guys, and usually when we go out as a group, you get some big drunk dumbass, and they see the group and they just look for the smallest person and go for it. Unfortunately, that guy happened to study 7 different disciplines.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I've got a lot of back problems right now, and for the most part, it's just because I'm lazy. I need to start working out and doing all these things for my health.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things I've always said that if you can start whenever you're my age, I'm 33 right now. But if you can start when you're my age and you can just kind of get into like a yoga regimen or some kind of workout to where you're doing, stretching and get into good habits like that, then you will last a lot longer. Because I heard something somewhere where they were talking about the number one decider of whether or not you live to be old is calf and thigh strength.
Okay.
Because most of the people who die because they fell down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, my great grandmother, she lived to be 103. and she had this roommate, and the two were best friends. And the thing is that the other lady was really good for her for a sense, because she was really into getting my grandmother to move around. My grandmother had a huge back end, and moving around for her was very difficult at the time. So this woman would help her get up and help her move around and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
One day, she was trying to help her up, and she overextended herself, and my grandmother fell down and broke her hip, and she died
From complications?
And, yeah, pretty much over the next like week. I don't know the particulars and the instances, but within a week she was dead.
Wow.
And the other lady went crazy because she couldn't imagine that she just killed her friend.
Well, that's got to be rough. I mean,
yeah,
I know, and I will say this publicly. I don't actually do DDP yoga, but I do forms of yoga to keep me flexible, especially with all the bloody blood clots that I've been getting. But yeah, I think flexibility is definitely something important. And yeah, if I ever get around to it, or get a couple $100, I think it's what it is, to purchase DDP yoga, I think it's worthwhile from the things that I've seen. But now,
I'll be able to help you out with that, because
go ahead.
Hit me up off screen, and I'll be able to help you out with that.
Yeah, I'm a
I already got it. It's okay. I'm not. My deal is that I'm like self-conscious. It's weird because like when I was in jail, like I had this like determination I was going to read the Bible and work out, and I read the Bible. I didn't work out that much, and the reason is because I was stuck in this cell with like 7 other dudes, or it wasn't 7 most of the time. It was like 5 most of the time, but with 5 other dudes. And it's just really hard to work out in front of other people, and for me.
So you had a self-conscious thing kicking in?
Yeah, that's basically what it is. And that's what I've always found hard about the gym, too, is like, I don't know what it is. I just don't like it when people watch me work out. It makes me feel like maybe I'm doing it wrong or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to the gyms where you get those damn instructors and they just keep coming over, and it's like, no, I'm cool. I got this.
Oh, no, worse than that is over at the school. I went back to school probably when I was like 29 or something like that, and I went down to Huntsville to go to Sam Houston State, and I would go to the gym over there, and it was horrid. And I'm not telling you why. I'm not saying it was horrid like the facilities were horrid, because the facilities were awesome. But the problem is you would have girls in there, 19 years old, wearing like nothing. Like nothing. And they're sitting there and they're doing that fucking thigh thing. And they're sitting there fucking all like whatever sort of way. And you're sitting there like, I'm not going to stare. I'm not going to stare. I'm not going to stare.
Wow.
Look at your feet. Look at your feet. Lift. Look at your feet.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can become a dating center.
It is a
meat market.
It is a good place if you're inclined to look at really good-looking women wearing hardly anything. I would suggest go to your local college athletic center.
So you want to start like a self-conscious person's gym then?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. It would be like, that's a good idea. What you would do is you would rent out like fucking, what are the storage facilities, right?
Yeah.
And then in every single one of you do the inside ones, right, where there's like a hall and then you have a bunch of doors and stuff. And then each one of those in one of those rooms, you put weights and a fucking, whatever. And then you just sit there and you're like, all right, well, you can rent out the room for an hour.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, totally just invented something. If you come up with that shit, if you fucking market that shit, you better pay me some money, motherfucker. Not you, Doc, but if you're out there and you market that shit, I better get a fucking royalty. Hardcore, you better call me. Just saying. Just saying.
Now, when you now when you got to the point of graduation, you know,
Right.
where normal people say that you know that's the point where you discover your adulthood. What were you looking forward to? What dream or aspiration did you have once you graduated?
My whole entire deal was girls, man. Like, that's the crazy thing about me is like my 20s was spent just like in chasing of females of one sort or another and repercussions for that lifestyle. Because like it was all like one girl, one girl, one girl, one girl, one girl, one girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this situation to where um I had a particular low point in my life, and I had a situation to where this girl who I was really into for my entire high school life, um, like we've basically it was over, and I got real depressed about it, and uh, I was having a hard time, and then I decided I wanted to do something new. I wanted to change in my life, and in my weird happenstance sort of way, uh, I ended up getting with this girl who was pregnant.
Oh
And,
my!
yeah. And just staying with her for like the next 3 years and having like a family and having that whole thing go down. Like, and it's weird how much that kind of stuff changes your life. Like, because whenever you're by yourself and you don't really have any purpose or whatever, it's easy to get into this like cycle of just doing the bare minimum for yourself.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I just want to smoke pot, play video games, eat good food, and hang out and get drunk on occasion. And you're like, all right, cool. That's a perfectly noble pursuit for anybody. For anybody, we'll call it okay, right? But
Sure.
whenever you get a kid or a family, it's more a family. It's not so much a kid because if you don't have a girlfriend constantly nagging you and worrying you and being a part of that whole entire family unit, it's harder to um, really aspire for the end goal because
Sure.
it's a structure type thing. You need that female influence to be like, okay, this is your home. Because when you don't have that, you really haven't changed much of your situation. The idea, it's the common problem is not the lack of people getting together and para bonding or kids having two parents. It's the lack of them having a home. Because you can have two parents out the wazoo and not be better off. But if you have a home, if you have a stable place where you have two parents who love you to give you both ends of what you need to be a grown-up fucking person, then you'll be better off. Whereas most people don't have that. They can have two parents, but they don't have a home.
So, did you come from a two-parent family?
Nope. Not originally. My mom and my dad got divorced whenever I was like, I want to say like 3.
Oh, okay. Because you had mentioned that she got remarried, but I had no idea at what point in your life.
It was when I was 6.
Oh, okay. So that's not necessarily a bad thing because you're still, I would think at age 6, I mean, you're formulating your opinions. You're not set in stone yet, so to speak. Do you feel that I mean, you had, my new dad. Did you, was this a benefit to you? Uh-oh. And if you are currently speaking right now, Hardkore, I am not able to hear you. And I'm not showing you on mute in the Google Hangout either. But hey, why we have this brief pause? If you haven't been introduced to Hardkore, his Twitter and Twitch links are down there in the descriptor. Also, mine are down there as well. And of course, just below mine, you have the prescription for additional entertainment. These are people that I like to watch and that I enjoy watching. Maybe try them out. Their links are down there. And let's see. Well, I'm seeing you. You are in the chat. Oh, there we go. Okay, he dropped. So we'll give him a little time to come back. Of course, next week, let me go ahead and promote that we will be having in as our guest Blind Press. And that should be a pretty fascinating interview. I will be honest with you. I am curious how a non-visual person moves around in a visual medium. I find that incredibly fascinating. And also, I'm gonna get some maybe tips for playing Mortal Kombat from her, because apparently she's not that bad. I suck at Mortal Kombat. Let's just say that right up front. Now, of course, if you do have questions, you certainly can ask. We will be having the question and answer session starting at the 9 o'clock hour. So at the top, please do prepare and throw any questions that you have in the chat for Hardkore, and we'll go ahead and get those answered for you. Let's take a look here. Looks like he's making his way to getting back, so that's not a bad thing. And I will take a look here real quick. You know what? I will, while he's loading back in, I'll go ahead and do something that I don't normally do on this show. Let me go ahead and throw hellos out. Hello to Catman Dingo. Hello, SMG. Hello, Zelstrike. Hello, Blue Penguin. And let me scroll down. And
What up?
I don't know. And
I'm back.
Hello.
I'll leave the camera on for a minute,
Okay.
just so people can see me. I'm a real person.
And also, hello, Panda HQ Sky, and hello, Psycho Fire.
Sorry about that. My phone died.
Well, you know, stuff happens.
Yeah. What time is it? I gotta go to work here in a little bit. Yeah, we can sometime.
It's about 25 till.
Hopefully my phone won't die again.
That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right, well, this is what I look like, people. We're going incognito again. All right, we're back.
Okay, so
What's up?
what did you plan to do when you got out of high school? I mean, just join the general labor force, or?
No, the problem was I really didn't have a plan. I was just, like I said, I was obsessed with girls one after another. And then once I got to the point where I was with my ex-girlfriend, the one that was pregnant, it became all about, like, trying to reach stability. And that was the problem is like, I always had this problem where I was ahead of everybody else when I was a kid. Like, I had like unlimited potential, and people would sit there and be like, oh, well, you could do anything. I mean, you know, whatever. And then I got to the point when I was like 28, 29 or 27. I was like, you know, I used to be like a genius, but now I'm just like an averagely smart middle-aged person. And so I wanted to try to do something better for myself, so I went back to school. And that's the problem is like, I went back to school at the same time that everybody started getting red pilled.
Okay.
And it's weird. Like, whenever remember when Trigglypuff happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my first year of college. And so I'm sitting there in college being an older person, not jaded by bullshit and fucking the TV and the fake stuff that they have on the on the internet these days, and sitting there seeing firsthand the kind of stuff that they were talking about. And so I got down there, and like I talk about this sometimes. Like, I took a victimology class, and from day one you could tell that it really wasn't about victimology. It wasn't about victim. It was about feminist propaganda. And I don't mean that lightly. Like, some people sit there and they use those terms very loosely, not really understanding what they're talking about. I mean this very seriously, that there is a distinct danger in teaching female police officers that there is no inherent danger from females in domestic abuse situations. I mean, that's definably false.
I don't know if I can go with that, because I took the Citizens Police Academy training, and this was probably early 2000s. And the opinion had changed quite a bit. When there's something going on, it's put your hand to your hip, because this could get bad. And,
no,
it's going to come from anywhere.
You're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Okay.
Luckily, the overall, and knowing this from my degrees and stuff, the overall move in recent years has gone away from being pro women as far as policing goes. But I was talking about this specific class, and I'm talking about a specific teacher with her specific choices.
So basically, you were facing someone who was SJWE.
Yeah, no, definitely an SJW. And the thing is like, it's weird because like I said before, it's weird to use these kind of terms, but they've infiltrated pretty much every institution or every class that leads towards change. They made it to where classes like victimology or required courses, courses teaching about how to deal with domestic and sexual abuse and things like that. And to an extent, that's good. You should have that kind of classes for police officers. But in the regards of what they're teaching them, they aren't teaching them the necessary skills. They're teaching them propaganda. Yeah.
Well,
they're using those classes like victimology to push a narrative. And to give you an example, I think I've used this before on the other show, but there's a disparity in the way they were teaching with an idea in criminal justice known as the dark figure of crime. And basically what the dark figure of crime is unreported crimes. So if a woman gets punched in the face and she doesn't report because she's scared she's going to get punched in the face again, then that would fall into the dark figure of crime.
Okay.
And whenever you listen to anybody who advocates for sexual abuse laws or whatever, they talk about this quite a bit. They're sitting there saying that, like 60 to 80% of women have been sexually abused. And they're using those kind of statistics to advocate that idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but where are they drawing their stats from?
Usually surveys. Like you would be surprised where a lot of these groups and these advocacy group get their actual information from. And most of it is fucking skewed as shit. Like, to go back to the biggest and most controversial thing, there was a statistic. It's like 1 in 5 women are on college campuses are sexually abused. Okay, if you look back, and this is something that this is why I always like I have such a fact boner for Aiden is because this is kind of the kind of stuff that she kind of advocates against.
Mm-hmm.
Is misuse of statistics, and this is one of those things because they did a mail-in poll over in one place, and they used that statistic from that mail-in poll, which not even acknowledging the fact that the people who are mail into a poll are automatically have invested interest in taking the poll.
Yeah.
So let's say you're Joe Blow, or you're some random girl and you've never had anything bad happen to you in your life. You're not going to take that poll. You don't give a shit about that. What the fuck, Whereas if you're recently molested by a fucking football player, then you're going to be like, this is a problem.
Wow. I can certainly understand that. One of my early studies was in subliminal advertising, and people were like, "Oh yeah, they did a ton of studies and they proved that subliminal advertising is a thing." Well, actually, they only ever did one study, and it was in one movie theater, and they played it it was either 2 or 3 movies through, where they inserted the pictures of popcorn and soft drinks.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I always sit there and like whenever I would get into the debates with the alt-right and stuff like that, and they would cite these deals, I was like, have you read the way that they came to the conclusion? Have you read the study and how they came to it, or did you just read the abstract? Because sometimes some of this stuff, it validates itself by just the means to which they do it. They sit there and they're like, okay, we sampled 30 people in California, and we asked them, what kind of ice cream do you like? And they all said vanilla. Automatically, the entire country likes vanilla more than anything else.
Well, so what grade did you get in that class?
I fucking dropped out of that class. I couldn't take it anymore. I really couldn't. Like, I was getting in trouble because I wouldn't, we would get to a point and she would say something and I would raise my hand and she would ignore me. And if she did answer it, I would get the problem was the room was filled with proto SJWs, because this was before SJWs were really prominent. So these were all the beginning amoebas that were to become SJWs. And they would sit there and I would say something, and one of the other younger 19-year-old girls would be angry and wanting to argue with me. And
Wow.
so the second you start arguing with a 19-year-old girl in the middle in a room full of females, you've lost.
Yeah, you need to take the L on that one.
Yeah, no, and after that happened twice, I was like, I'm done with that class.
Well, so in trying to further your education, how? Because I'm really curious. You're in an atmosphere which basically incubates on these SJWs.
Right. Well, not anymore, but I was. Yeah.
Well, no, yeah. At the time that you were in, did you just say to hell with it and drop, or did you try to complete some type of education?
Well, I'm still trying to complete it. The problem was I ran out of money.
Yeah.
I really just I came down there on a scholarship, and I didn't know at the time that I needed a certain amount of hours each semester. So I didn't take I needed 15 and I only took 13, and I didn't know about it.
Uh-huh.
So I validated my scholarship, and then the place that I was at was so damn expensive that I ended up blowing out the rest of my scholarship or my grant money pretty quick. And now I'm in a situation to where I need like maybe 5 more classes, if that, and I just got to figure out a way to pay for them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So now, with that not being an option currently, where because well, I know we've talked a little bit about jail on the other show, but no, barring that, you come out, you're fresh. Is it just like I want to seek higher education, or let's?
I want to get my master's mostly. The thing is like my philosophy behind trying to get that piece of paper is that I always have been kind of down on people who really value that piece of paper more than anything else because of the fact that I honestly don't consider that to be real knowledge. I think that you can get more knowledge, especially having gone through it, by just being inquisitive and looking into it and really trying to go learn on your own and being interested in the subject than you can by going in and spending 30 minutes a week in some room listening to some idiot talk. But the thing is that when you're in a situation like I am, where I'm constantly so combative on the internet, and I don't want to be an anon, I find anons to be incredibly distasteful, and I find it to be a sign of cowardice that you cannot stand by your own beliefs and what you advocate for. Because one of my philosophies is I've always been about living by example. So if you really want to go out there and say this is how things should be, you should at least attempt to do good. Whereas I've done a bunch of bad things in my life, and I'm by no means a saint. I don't pretend to be. That's why I don't really like people who are like holier than thou or Bible thumpers or whatever. But the thing is if you really want to make a difference, then you can't be undermined by hypocrisy.
Okay.
And that's the problem with a lot of people. I mean, that's why you see all these fucking e-celebs fall to the wayside just because they're sitting there claiming to be one person, and then when you find out who they really are, they're a completely different person.
Yeah. Do you really think that morality can actually be a thing? Not just the internet, but more specifically the YouTubes.
Yes and no. I mean, everybody doesn't really get that YouTube is very similar to the world, and that we are the people there at that website have given everybody a chance to go and amplify their voice, to give them a larger than what they normally would have chance to express themselves. And everybody gets that chance. But it doesn't really change much of anything. The only difference is that you've given them a bullhorn. They're still there. They're still people. And the problem we have on this whole entire thing is that we're so quick to either A, adore, or B, vilify somebody. So if they say one bad thing, then we want them to die a horrible death. Like it's like Tonka. Fucking idiot. Fucking splurg. Been saying this from day one. My little first encounters on the internet were fucking with this dude and Andy Worski. Back whenever they were pretending like they were something. But the thing is even at this point, with all the garbage that he's done, I wish him well. I'm happy for him getting to go do his wrestling thing. I mean, if he can get out there and do it, and he has garbage matches.
Yeah,
that's one of the worst. And honestly, the match really wasn't bad because of him. It was bad because the other dude, like when he did that roll up at the end, and that other dude sitting there and he's standing in front of his dude looking at his hand. I could not be less convinced that he was shocked. And honestly, that's what really killed the whole entire match, is that when you do a roll up that way, the person's supposed to be really fucking shocked. Like, how did that just happen? Where this dude he has his hands in front of his hand. And he's like, maybe I have some pain on my hands. I don't understand what is on my hands right now. I don't really. Did I jack off and leave some?
Well, I watched all 4 of his matches so far, and he schoolboyed 3 out of the 4 matches.
Because I don't understand why he thinks he's. It's weird to me because he's playing as if he's Spike Dudley. Like that's only interesting if you're such a huge underdog that would be a shock.
Exactly.
He's as big as the other dude. So him doing a roll up is just seen as, is that your finisher? Do you not have a finisher?
Dude.
Because we all know that this isn't real, bro.
Well, he's done 4 matches. He had 3 schoolboys and then a lay-on. Literally the guy was knocked out.
Lay-on?
Yeah.
Like a lay-on?
Literally the guy was knocked out, not legitimately, but literally. And Tonka just fell back on him and laid on him and got the 3 count.
Why? See, that's the thing about it is like I'm broken down and I'm beaten up, but if I got in there, you would at least have a reason why I was pinning somebody.
Well,
no, it doesn't. And on top of it, he doesn't really understand. The dude who he was against, the one that I saw, the one with the roll up at the end where the dude was staring at his hands, that dude deserved nothing. He fucking was garbage. Whereas Tonka, on the other hand, did not put up a good enough effort to where he could claim that he has any right to say he's a good wrestler. Because even Ric Flair could have won that. I mean, could have sold that match. It would have ended well. Whereas that right there, that at the end of that match, you were like, that was fake. That was a fake thing that I just saw there. Whereas at the end of a wrestling match, at the end of that wrestling match, you should be mad at somebody.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if he's a face. I don't know if he's a heel.
Yeah, exactly. That's a heat spot. That's a heel heat spot. You do that when you're a heel, and the whole entire point is to convey the message that you couldn't win fair. You couldn't knock him out. You couldn't win that. So you rolled his ass up, and you normally add a fucking rope grab with that. You sit there, you roll his ass up, and you grab the rope, and that's the heel move. Whereas that's a Spike Dudley play if it's a face move, and it's for somebody who's small. It's not a play for somebody who's the same size as the dude. It doesn't make any sense.
It's a David and Goliath move.
Yeah, it's a David and Goliath move. That's exactly what it is. It's what somebody my size would do to win a match like that. And he's not that small. He's tall. He's out of shape. That is the other unimpressive thing about it. Is going back. I want to state this publicly so everybody can hear this. The first time I met Tonka, he fucking challenged me to a fight. If this bitch wants to fucking fight, having seen him, I want to hit him in the face multiple times. If he wants to come and talk shit, come get it hardcore. Fuck that Andy Worski shit, bro. I'm half his size. I guarantee you'll look like a pussy running from me. Come on, kid. Come on. Yeah, dude. We've been going through this for like a year and a half now. Yeah, let's just do it. Come on. If you win, who fucking cares? But if I beat your ass, what does that say, Tonka? What the fuck does that say? It shows that you're a fucking pussy. A fucking pussy. Come shoot with me, boy. We got months. Come on, kid. I'm right here. Don't run. Don't be scared. I'm sorry, Doc. I had to go into a different mode.
No.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
It's all right if you want to cut a promo. That's okay. Yeah. That's the thing that. Now, of course, you're a wrestling fan too, and I got into wrestling when I was very, very young. My grandfather used to take me to the outlaw matches that the original Sheik ran for big time wrestling, and I mean, that shit looked real, and these guys would come into town, and there was a story to tell. There was literally, you knew who the bad guy was within 5 seconds of him walking in. You knew who the good guy was.
Right.
And that's the problem that I had watching that all that Pro South, because there were guys, well, the guys who were going against him were trying to heal up on him, right?
Right.
And he did nothing to portray being a face.
He's so boring. That's the thing. He doesn't have a personality. There's nothing there. Who's Robbie Vio? I mean, that isn't even that's not a gimmick. That's not a personality. That's not a thing. At least Tonka Saw is a thing. Why is your gimmick on YouTube better than your gimmick in the fucking ring? Like, this is another thing. Like whenever I first got on the whole entire deal, the dude put basically a restraint on me. Little known fact, my first appearance on the Kumite, I was told I couldn't talk about certain things. That it was literally, I was not allowed to talk about his wrestling. I wasn't allowed to talk about whatever. And because of the fact that Bearing was on there and fucking Andy was on there and I didn't know they were going to be on there, I was trying to not alienate the entire YouTube community on my first go round on there. So I was like, all right, let's tell some jokes. But now that I know everybody, fuck all of y'all.
Yeah,
but
and like when he finished one of his matches, if he was the face, there was somebody, there was a little kid leaning over the railing for a high five, and he reared back on him like he was gonna hit him, and I'm like, what the fuck are you, dude?
He thinks he's the Rock. That's what it is. He thinks he's the Rock. He thinks he's the people's champ. That he could just act like a douchebag, and people are going to be like, "Oh, there's Rocky. He's just a douche."
Well, he does have that $125 YouTube belt.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the YouTube belt. Oh my god, the YouTube belt, and 2 fake victories over me. So that says something too.
Well, I'll just say this much: there's a belt hanging up in Las Tejas. And that's the Kumite belt, and it's retired. It's done.
It's done. Doesn't AP have it?
Yeah.
AP deserves it.
Yeah, AP's got it hanging up on his wall, and I've had many conversations. He basically succeeded the title to King Carl, and then there were some dirty dealings going on, and King Carl disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And that kind of sucked, but now because I definitely want to get back to you. I know we're getting to the top of the hour, so
yeah, we gotta cut it short because I gotta go to work.
Okay, when do you have to be off?
I'm going to. I can maybe do 5-10 more minutes, and then I gotta go.
Okay. If
my phone lasts that long.
Okay, people in the chat, if you do have any questions, go ahead and load that up. But let me ask this: what was your involvement? What was your reason to get onto YouTube?
Onto YouTube originally?
Yeah.
Originally, back in the day, it was the same as everybody else. I just wanted to talk about stuff, and the problem is that I'm such a perfectionist that every time that I do this, I want it to be perfect. And the stuff that I put out there so far is not perfect, but it was good enough to where I wasn't uncomfortable with having it on there.
Okay.
When I first started doing the YouTube thing, it was a long time ago. And I just started doing like little rant videos where I was walking out. I was having a hard time. So what I would do is I thought about something, I would sit there and I would hold up my phone and I would sit there and I'd talk into my phone and then I put it out there, right? I did like 3 videos. Uncomfortable with having a huge gap where I was having a hard time. And then I got back into it right as Sargon was doing the liberalist thing.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting here and I'm in the situation to where I really miss the idea of a sane left. Whereas me, I'm conservative and I'm not far right, but I'm definitely right leaning. And I'm sitting there and this situation where I want to have a equal or an opponent that's not completely insane. Because especially back then, everybody was just crazy, you know? And so I went in there and I joined the little Facebook group. And I really quickly realized that not only was I not like them, but um, there were some problems in the group. First of all, there was a huge rift in the group between the atheists and the non-atheists because of the fact it was a Sargon group. The majority of people were staunch atheists, and they did not want any Christians or any religious people in there whatsoever. And me, I'm not saying I'm very religious. I'm somewhat religious. I'm not.
Quasi?
I wouldn't say quasi. I'm definitely somewhat. I'm definitely religious, but I'm not preachy religious, you know. And so the thing is like I got into a situation to where I was taking on the entire group by myself. So, somebody would comment, I would reply. Somebody would comment, I would reply. And I would take on like 50 of these little liberalist atheist douchebags. And it got to be such a thing that I ended up getting promoted in the group. And that at that point I realized that there was two classes. There was the admin moderator class, and then there was everybody else. And the admin moderator class, those were the people who were going to get to do the debates. They were going to get to go on the YouTube channel. They were whatever. And then everybody else got to sit around and talk in the chat room of the Facebook group. Right.
Gotcha.
And so when I became the moderator, because of the fact that I thought that, at the time, everybody in the group was so positive, and they were just like, we're going to do all this stuff, and we're going to advocate for free speech and whatever, whatever. But then as time went by, I realized you had all these little mini Hitlers and Napoleons and Caesars, and they all wanted power, and they all wanted to fucking segregate and group off. And then there was the first conflict between the Facebook and the Discord, and they were going to go at it because the Discord was fucking run by this dude who was posting all sorts of questionable stuff about possibly assaulting little girls and things like that. And then
okay,
so we created a second Discord, and all this other shit went down. And then I started doing IBS. And when I started doing IBS, people started having a problem with me.
How so?
Because of the fact that, first of all, I started to complain about certain things that were going on in the group that I felt like the group wasn't being represented very well.
Okay.
And that the admins need to have more accountability to the who did what. Like, so if you're gonna have a group called whatever, then you should at least have accountability. People should know who is over it. So if you're having a liberalist Twitter account, people should know who is over the liberalist Twitter account, who's talking for them.
Yeah.
And the YouTube account, I sit there and I said, nobody should be making money off the liberalist YouTube account. Whereas there was this one dude who fashioned himself the leader under Sargon. And he was over almost every single account. And I was like, does not make any sense that this one person has control over every single account. And so, and they're like, they would sit there and flip-flop between like, well, we don't have any official YouTubes or Twitters or whatever, and you go on the fucking thing and it says the official YouTube of the liberalists.
I don't get that. I really don't.
Yeah. And then, then what happened is I started complaining. And what I did was, this is when Andy did the liberalist thing where he bought the name.
Well, technically, he never did.
Oh, he never did? Well, he made them believe he did. And so I sit there and I was like, okay, because the liberalist, the main problem I always had with the group was the name, the liberalist. I always thought that was the dumbest name I've ever heard. And I was like, why are we named this? This is a stupid ass name. I don't like it. And fucking so I was like, so now that we've officially somebody else has bought the name, can we have an honest discussion about not about renaming the group? And I got fucking I got ran out of rail on that one. And he was like, no, fuck you. And then I went on Twitter and I was like, I started airing some of my complaints and I started tagging like Andy and Medicare and Tonka. And they had a huge problem with that. They were sitting there saying that I was retweeting the enemy, their enemies. I was like, Andy's your enemy? I was like, you remember who we're talking about here. Andy Worski. Stutters. Fucking dude is not a threat. And I even said it on the deal. I was like, if you think Andy Worski is your enemy, you are fucking delusional. And so that what they did was they started. First thing they did was they took my moderator position away from me on some stupid shit because I muted somebody who was falsely flagging somebody. They falsely flagged somebody, and they sit there and they were calling people liars and they were flipping out, and I was like, here, 6 hours, calm down. And so they took my moderator position away from me, and then at that point, like I said before, there's two different classes. So if I wasn't a moderator, I was in the other class.
Yeah,
and you ain't getting heard down there. And so that's what frustrated me into going on Twitter. And then once I did that, I fucking laid out a 10-piece deal. 10 different points on things that should be done to fix the problems in the liberalist. And
did you write a manifesto?
I wrote a mini manifesto. It was like a quasi manifesto, to use the quasi word.
Okay.
And just 10 different things. One of them being like, nobody should make money off of the YouTube. And boy, did they flip the fuck out. They flipped out. I think if anybody wants to see it, come and ask me. I'll show you. I have a screenshot of it.
Well, politics always. No, I don't care what anybody says. Politics always shoots for monetization.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. They definitely wanted to make some money off of it. And what's weird is now I don't even know what's become of it because they split off into 3 different groups. They literally are 3 different organizations now. There's the LIA, which is the Liberalist International Association. There's the UK Liberalist, which is the one that Sargon's always like. Whenever you see those meetups and stuff, that's them who's doing that. And then there's the US Liberalist, and that's an actual actual corporation that somebody licensed. It's really weird. Yeah.
So, and normally we don't talk about politics, but did you consider yourself a liberalist at that point?
I never, ever considered myself a liberalist because of the fact that I've always been a conservative. So the liberalist thing never met up with my conservative values. I'm like I said, I'm a Christian. I'm pro guns. I'm anti-abortion, and a lot of those people, they flip flop on either one of those things. And I'm a really hardcore constitutional conservative. So like the liberalists, they just don't meet up with my deals. Whereas whenever the first time I was on there, I did identify as a liberalist because of the fact that I was a moderator in their group.
Okay.
And so it was a situation to where I was in a damned if I do, damned if I don't situation because I really didn't like doing that. But also I had a lot of friends and people who I respected in the group. And at the time I was honestly trying to help them do something because I thought that something was going on. But that's before I realized that there were people who were actively trying to make money off of the group. And that's what really started to just piss me off. And that's what ended up being the end of me and the group. And honestly, considering the fact that from day one they knew, and I was accused of only being there because I wanted to promote my videos, then I don't really feel like I was ever really false with them, because I was like, this is why I'm here, honestly. Like, I never once sit there and claim to be anything that I wasn't, because even if you look at my first videos over there, it's a third person critique of the liberalists. It's like, this is what you need to do to help this. Because, like, I got frustrated with a lot of the people. It was like, why are you even here? If you're sitting here and you're trying to start a new political party, but you're in a group that says they don't want to be a political party, why are you here? You know, if you're in here and you're trying to start, you know, a group, every single person in that group thought that it should be run by them. And it was really frustrating, because it's like, you're not here to be the leader, and you can't all be leaders. So who the fuck is gonna? Why would we want you here? Why are you here? It's the same thing that I sit there and would get annoyed with fucking Joaquin and his ethno state ideas. Who's gonna farm in your ethno state? You're not gonna be the leader. You're gonna be the fucking dick washer. You're gonna be Richard Spencer's dick washer.
So, you have something against ball washing?
Yes, if that's your profession. And if you do it with your tongue like Joaquin does, it's inappropriate, Joaquin. Use a sponge.
Well, now, I will say this. I've seen many a discussion that you've been a part of on stream. And you seem to be very comfortable as a contrarian.
Yes, I do. I've always been like this. I used to terrorize Facebook. I literally had to create 2 Facebooks, because my first one is so like, has so much stuff that I don't want certain people seeing. And it's not like fucking like I'm embarrassed of it. It's just, I don't want to fight with people. You know, like, oh, I just met you. You want to see my daughter? Like, you're a cousin or some shit like that. I don't want to hear your political point of view. And if you get on my one Facebook, you're gonna hear my political point of view.
Well, I would say that I mean, I enjoy it, because even seeing someone being a contrarian, at least even if it goes to absurd levels, it should be making people think.
Well, sometimes I just do it just to do it. You know, I'm not gonna lie. There's been a bunch of times where I've argued just for the sake of arguing, because I didn't like the person.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't like you, so whatever you say is stupid, and I fucking well, you shouldn't be allowed to speak, but you should be allowed to speak.
Technically, trolling is not illegal.
Yeah. I just, you know, I have a couple of regrets as far as just my little internet time. There was a point where I could have gone up against Joaquin on the Kumite, and I had some other stuff to do, and he kind of weaseled out of it. And I wish I wouldn't have let him, because right afterwards he blocked me, and I never got my chance to tear his ass up.
Yeah, I've had interactions behind the scenes with him too, and I don't know. I mean, how do you well?
I used to consider that dude to be my friend. Honestly, the first 3 weeks that I knew him, I thought that dude was a decent dude. Cause like, we would have, and Tonka too. That's the other thing, is like, Tonka would come on there and he would flip out and would act like whatever, and they would sit there and say, "Oh, well, he owned you," because everybody liked him at the time, but he would never actually win the argument.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, the show would go off, and he would sit there for like 6 hours. Either, like, most of the time they were trying to convince me to stop being a liberalist. That was their biggest concern, was trying to keep me from being a liberalist. Like the amount of hours that Joaquin and Tonka and Toad McKinley and certain other people have spent were trying at the time to keep me from being a liberalist. And I honestly think it was just to say that they converted somebody. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that I think that's honestly what it was. Is they figured that I was rational, and they could sit there and be like, well, these people are obviously whatever. And if you're on the inside looking out, it's a completely different perspective than on the outside looking in. Because the weird thing about whenever I was a part of it and I was pro them,
Yeah.
the biggest problem was always alt right infiltrators and people misrepresenting themselves as liberalist. So the alt right infiltrators were people who would come into the group. We couldn't tell the difference between them because, who knows? And they would come in there and they would just report out to other people like Joaquin, because Joaquin used to say that the alt right had more people in the liberalist than the liberalist had in the liberalist, and that was always unnerving to me. Because
Well,
I tell them, I'd be like, there's a lot of people here. I mean, I'm getting news that there are so many spies here that we would be surprised, and they'd be like, go back to doing what you were doing before.
uh, how do you stay out? Because you were kind of thick into it with some of these people that eventually, got outed, and the only thing I can think of is stripped of their pride.
I
Uh,
stopped. I realized they were fake and stopped participating. Like the thing is like the last time I went on BYBS, I got lied to. I was told that it was going to be a one-on-one debate, and it was about something that I was interested in. The person who I got on there with was a moron, like a literal moron. We talked for maybe 30 seconds before Joaquin said he lied and then attempted to dogpile me again, which was the common theme of BYBS was dogpile hardcore. And it was because at first it was fine, but the problem is like the Medicare thing was the first time that I really like got upset about it because of the fact that I didn't know who Medicare was.
okay.
And Code comes up to me and says, hey, Medicare wants to talk to you about he wants to hear, about whatever. And this was kind of common, like people would want to talk to me about whatever because I was one of the only people in that group who wanted to actually talk about what it was, you know? And so I went on there and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, I heard you wanted to talk to me." And it's like he was like, "Bitch, I don't know who you are."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, "Oh, fuck. I got set up." And from that point on, I was just really wary about being set up, and it got to the point where I didn't want to be on there anymore. And then Joaquin had his falling out with them, and it just kind of all fell apart after that. So
So, I mean, you're basically rising from the ashes of
no,
what used to be blood sports. Um,
I
uh,
wouldn't even say rising from the ashes. I would say that I went on a trip to a different place and came back, and the place is ashes over there. It's like, oh, there's that. Fuck
so,
that.
so what do you plan to do for the future? I mean, because you were a very good competitor in blood sports, but that's basically that fad's over and done with pretty much.
Yeah, and it's hard to not go there. Like, I mean, it's hard to not be defensive or to be worried about that. Like whenever somebody comes on and they start running their head, and you're like, you want to go to that extreme level. Whereas I agree with you. I think that time has passed, and I'm happy it passed because I didn't get on the internet to have screaming matches with idiots. I really, my whole entire thing, and I've said it from day one, I've been telling SMG this from the second that he got on the internet, is that my only goal is get to a level of fame to where I can talk to the people who I find interesting and they actually respond. Because the thing is that at this point, a lot of the people who are really intelligent are so high profile that you have to be a certain level of fame to interact with them.
I honestly can't disagree. People do go into cliques.
And so, like, one of the things that I found most frustrating was the fact that whenever I was in the Liberalist, Sargon wouldn't talk to anybody. He would talk to maybe one or two people in the admin moderator class.
Yeah.
And which one of the main reasons why I got in there was one of my friends inside there is like his next door neighbor or some shit like that. So I actually knew somebody who was like chosen to be in the first debates and all that other stuff, was the actual owner of the Facebook group. And so I actually had like friends who knew him, and even then I still couldn't get the dude to talk to me at all. Not even for like a fame reason, just like for, hey, this is going on. I could talk to V. V talked to me a couple of times, but nobody else.
Yeah, I mean, V is kind of like the Goebbels of the whole deal.
Yeah, he's definitely the Goebbels. But it frustrated me because of the fact that a lot of this stuff was in there. A lot of the people were there because of him. And I wasn't there because of him. I was there because of the people, and to try to help with this idea that I had, that there should be a somewhat sane left. And I thought that maybe if I could help them in whatever way I could with my videos or whatever, that maybe there'd be a point in the future where things would go back to normal. And I don't mean normal like this was ever really a thing, but it seems like most people aren't that different. I think like a lot of it's propaganda. Like most people don't give a fuck about gay people anymore. And if trannies weren't so detrimental to society as a whole, I don't think a lot of people would have a problem with them either.
Well, I know people who are transitioning, mm-hmm. and they really despise when the gay white knights start jumping in and speaking for them and talking about how things are, because a quick message frowns on the B of it. So
the B is thing. The B, you know what the B represents? The B represents women. That's what the B is. And on top of that, I have to go. I really do. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's no problem. We've got your Twitter and your Twitch hyped. Is there anything else that we should include?
No. Just thanks for having me. I appreciate it. We should do this again, maybe a part 2. I have a lot more stories. We didn't even get into my stories.
No, not at all. Because I know we talked a little bit about the colorful nature of the local Gray Bar Hilton on IRS, but of course, you're always welcome onto the IRS too.
Yeah, buddy.
Wait a minute. There's somebody who said failures unwrenchable gay ops in the chat. There you go. Have a wrench.
Hi, buddy.
Okay.
I gotta go.
All right. I certainly appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for stopping by, Hardkore.
All right, bye.
And of course, there we go. Of course, this one was a little bit short, but I certainly do appreciate Hardkore taking time out so we can definitely have a show. I will say straight up that I do have a backup list of guests that I like, or people that I enjoy talking to when I'm off air. And Hardkore is definitely one of those. Initially, when I got into the YouTubes, I've been on YouTube since like 2008. It wasn't under this guise, but I've been around since, technically 2007. And kind of the first people that I fell into, as far as people that you can sit around and shoot the shit with, was Hardkore, Stone Mexican Guy, and Anal Vape. And of course, some of those names are probably not liked in the chat, but they were still good guys to talk to. And I always like having interesting guests on that have interesting things to say. with that in mind, yeah, let's go ahead and do the wrap on this. Of course, down in the descriptor, you will see Hardkore's links, his Twitter and his Twitch. Also, down there is my information. I've got my Twitter. I've got a Streamlabs. So if you like what I do, I won't say no if you throw a couple shekels my way. I've also got a Patreon, and that helps pay for my monthly booze allotment. And of course, I do have a TeePublic store, which has it's got some DocGriffon stuff. It's got some Doctor on Call stuff. It even has some Insomnia Ramble Stream. But of course, we do have the bootleg Medica merchandise too. But the most important thing down here is my prescription for additional entertainment. These are people that I enjoy watching. People like Blackout. People like Hey Man, Nice Shot. The Jobbers and Jabbers is hilarious. I love tuning in on Saturdays. And of course, there's many more there. I have a list. It probably would be a hell of a lot longer too. But I just want to leave you with those to ponder and consider. And of course, I do thank very much Hardkore for stepping in at the last minute, filling in for the headliner, so to speak. And this is Doctor on Call. My name is DocGriffon, and ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week when I interview somebody who I think is going to be quite an interesting interview, which is Blind Press. And we'll be talking to her next week. Also, just a little teaser for April. We will be having on Cecil, the man who runs the channel Good Bad Flicks. If you haven't been over to see Good Bad Flicks, then you're definitely missing out. And of course, we'll also have the lead guitarist for the Alice Cooper band, Ryan Roxy. So there's a couple teases for you. But hopefully you had a great time tonight. I did definitely have a good time. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and the doctor's office is now closed.